Good morning. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a good one. I got one of the best, slightly late Christmas presents I could have hoped for. I'd probably mention this in another one, but yeah, my good friend came back to the sober house, so he's back on the right track. Um, he had an interesting epiphany that a lot of us addicts have at one point or another, and that is, we get to, whether it be somebody we know who decides to get sober, or um, somebody who goes back out, whatever the catalyst is, we get to see the other side of addiction, what most of our friends and family and loved ones go through and experience. And it's very eye-opening. um, just goes to show you the power of prayer. When he came back, one of the prayers I said for him was that, the universe do for him what they did for me. And so far so good. So yeah, that was awesome. The move has been postponed. um, it's been some conversations that I've had. We've come to an agreement. So for now, I'm still in Oberlin. Hmm. But that's something that'll change this year for sure. I just accept and have faith that, the universe keeps me here right now because it's where I'm supposed to be. I, I've tried to leave. I've had multiple opportunities where I thought I had a place lined up, and for one reason or another, all of them fell through last minute. So I'm not, I'm not trying to fight it. It'll happen. That Had another interesting conversation with another person who was at the house earlier, a year or so ago, and left for a while, slipped up, came back. We were talking because, of course, that always comes up. Everyone asks, addicts and alcoholics, what caused you to relapse? And typically, it's not one thing. Usually, it's a culmination of 1,000 little things. But on the rare occasion that you can pinpoint it to, the a singular event being the catalyst for you making that decision. It does help sometimes. We were talking about his, and it was his baby mama, whatever. I don't know the details of the whole situation there, but had basically said to him in not so many words that even though he was doing good at the time and everything, that he was never going to be anything more than a beautiful hawk, more than a junkie and an addict, and he would always be basically a lying piece of shit. And him, like most addicts, and I'm totally guilty of this. I've done this multiple times in my life. It's, oh yeah, well, I'll show me, and we go out and almost instantaneously prove them right. Um, I've done it multiple times where I had, everyone in my inner circle accusing me of things and making me out to be a monster. So I was like, fine, you want a monster? I'm going to show you a monster. Here you go. You know, I can't explain the thinking behind it, but that's what happens. Um, you, my friend Chris, him and I were talking last night. It's pretty much the same thing. Um, and part of it is because we don't understand the amount of hurt, resentment, and everything else that our friends, family, and loved ones have, that they've never had a outlet or closure to. You know, we get sober and start thinking better and start thinking clearer, and we feel differently, and we think we're displaying different habits, and we can be doing all of that. We can be doing all the right things and everything, but we fail to take into consideration, for how many years were we essentially being abusive, narcissistic assholes, egocentric, good word, um, childlike in that aspect. So it's a good thing when we get the other side of the perception. Um, but it just goes back to things I've mentioned multiple times in many other videos, about how the subconscious mind seeks to validate itself. You know, so here this person is not even in my situation. You know, I had several years of sobriety, and I had an event in my life that I was definitely feeling extremely overwhelmed and isolated by. Um, the support I thought I had wasn't really there in the way I needed it to be. But at the same time, I couldn't necessarily articulate what I needed at the time because I wasn't even sure. Of course, I had found out that there were a lot of little birdies chirping in the background behind my back. And everyone expected me to fall. I was waning on it, actually, man, wholeheartedly. Even though they don't say that, they were. They certainly weren't uplifting me or trying to help me in this situation. So, at any rate, I fell. I made a choice. I sacrificed a lot of things. Um, I sacrificed the love of my life to try to protect them from myself and from my family. I sacrificed myself ultimately, and I will never do that again. Trust me and believe in that. Um, if there's any lesson I've learned this time, it's that I'm not. I move quite a bit in silence now. I keep my cards very close to my chest. There are very few people who know the details of my life, what I'm doing, who I'm doing it with, or why I'm doing it. And even the whole move thing. Yeah, I made a video that sure I was going to be moving, and sure enough, that changed. This is why I usually don't speak on those things. There are a couple of individuals I spoke to and notified them, and kind of all went to pot after that. I don't like to spread that energy out, so I won't be doing that again. But you know, so yeah, we fall prey to that, and back to the subconscious thing validating itself. You know, and this is probably a big thing I notice with a lot of people. You ask somebody to talk about themselves or describe themselves. What do they usually do? They describe their job or their career. They don't tell you who they are. They tell you what they do. And this is what actions speak louder than words. I get it. You know, um, and the point is, so many people walk around with these shields and these masks and everything, which is it's a byproduct of the ego, which is a necessary part of the human psyche. Um, you're not going to necessarily be totally open and vulnerable with every person you meet, because unfortunately there are people out there who, whether they intend it or not, will take advantage and will take it for granted. Point is, myself, like a lot of addicts, like the two I was talking about, for many, many years, we've had this belief that we were subhuman pieces of shit, you know, um, because that's what we've been told, but that's also what we've been telling ourselves. And usually when we slip or relapse, that's what happens. We go into reactionary mode, we go into autopilot, and that old belief system that we've been trying to suppress or change kicks in hardcore, usually because external influences are saying, oh, that's all you're ever going to be, blah, 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 blah. And we already believed it, so now we're going to act it out. It takes a lot of work to change that. And this is why I try to emphasize so much on true self-love, not just self-preservation and self-care. And a big chunk of that is self-forgiveness. So it's been an interesting New Year. It's been an interesting full moon. Been having some insane dreams, man. Not even insane, just very intense, vivid dreams. Quite a few visitors. Yes, I miss you too. So, yeah. Happy new calendar. I think we're coming up on the year of the horse. It's gonna be a good year. All right, I'll check back in sometime later. I don't know when. Have a blessed day.